Hi my loves, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Welcome if you guys are new. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of a similar video, but it's basically going to be tier ranking trilogies to find the ultimate trilogy, the perfect trilogy, which in my opinion is an incredibly hard thing to find. I find that trilogies can be paced differently. Sometimes you're like, this could be a duology. Sometimes you're like, I need 5 books in this series. This was too squished and condensed into a trilogy. I think it's very rare to find the perfectly paced trilogy. It's a hard thing to do. So we are going to basically be ranking all of the trilogies I have read. Some of these you might have heard me talk about before. Some of these are new additions to the list. So forgive me if you've heard me ramble about them before, but you know I love ramble about some favorite trilogies. So yeah, rather than ranking from like worst to best, I feel like this is a really great in-betweener because you can have 2 of your favorite series or you can have 2 of your least favorite. Like you don't have to decide between them. So personally, I love a tier list. Now, I only included trilogies that I have finished. There definitely were some series on there that I could have included that I ended up DNFing. Also series that I'm still working through. So if you're like, Freya, where is the Poppy War series? I haven't finished it yet. That's why it's not on here. I also had kind of difficulty putting in certain trilogies, which I chose not to do anything like Red Rising. Obviously we have phase 1 and phase 2, but I feel like it's very widely assumed that it's all kind of referred to as like a series as a whole. Obviously with the Crescent City series, originally thought it was a trilogy. I don't think it's a trilogy anymore. I think we're getting more books in that universe. I'm not entirely sure with that one. That one was really iffy, but I didn't want to make people mad by including it in a trilogy if it wasn't a trilogy, all of that stuff. But yeah, those were my kind of only requirements. So I have 5 tiers that I'm going to be dividing these series into. First of all, we have God tier, which obviously you all know, 6-star reads. Like I think about them on a daily basis. They mean incredible things to me. Love them to bits. Then we have 5-star. The only thing that like differentiates this is I still love them. To me, they are perfect. It's just not quite to that like attachment to my soul level, if you know what I mean. I know lots of people don't believe that there should be a rating above 5 stars, but I personally think it's healthy because there's a difference between an incredibly perfect book and then like a book that literally changes your brain chemistry, in my opinion. Okay, then we have So Close to Perfect. So in my mind, this is anything like 4.25 and above. I think as a trilogy as a whole, like that's what we're going to be talking about, ratings as a whole. It is really hard to write a perfect trilogy. So we're just going to be talking about them as a whole. And I feel like a 4.25 and above is really, really good as a rating, like such a good rating. So those ones are ones that I maybe just didn't quite connect to enough to do a 5 stars, or there was just 1 or 2 things that didn't quite make it to that level. We then have It Was Fun, just a fun time. I'd recommend. I think it's a good trilogy, solid trilogy. And then we have I've Read Better. Now the reason I don't have anything that's like I would never read this again, never recommend it, is because if I'm feeling like that with the trilogy, I will DNF it. Like I'm not going to force myself through the entire series. So all of these books I don't hate by any means. So yeah, that's why I kind of just included 5 tiers. I feel like that was enough. I feel like that was good. So without me rambling, because I will literally be rambling this entire video, I think we should get into it. So I've got my computer down here, which is why my eyesight's down a little bit today. Let's start with the Kiss of Deception series by Mary E. Pearson. Now, I only finished this series earlier this year. This is technically the prequel to Dance of Thieves. It's like the Remnant Chronicles set in the same world as Dance of Thieves. I didn't realize that you had to read Dance of Thieves after this. Like I didn't realize there was a reading order for this. So I did read Dance of Thieves beforehand. I would recommend you read Kiss of Deception first. I think it just gives you good background. I think you would make some fun connections if you're someone who likes to like draw these like invisible string theories, or I don't know, just see these little Easter eggs here and there. I think that's really, really fun. And I feel like it did it really well. So if you love a medieval kind of classic feeling fantasy series, I'd give it a read. I do like Dance of Thieves more. So I think for this one, I'm between So Close to Perfect and It Was Fun, because I don't love it and I don't think it's a perfect trilogy at all, really. I mean, there were some themes, like we do have a love triangle that's present. You know what? I think I'm going to go Close to Perfect because it was fun. No, I think I gave it a 4.25, so we should go. It was close to perfect. See, this is what I mean. I'm so bad at making decisions. Okay, A Discovery of Witches. Now, this is a trilogy I think is extremely underrated. I will often get people commenting, asking if I've read this, and yes, I have. I just read it a long, long time ago. It was one of the first kind of more adult fantasy trilogies I have read. If you're unsure what this one is about, like if you like an academic setting and just that classic fall fantasy trilogy feel, you will be obsessed with this. Basically, we are working in a world with vampires, with witches, with demons, with so many mythical creatures, except they're all I want to say they have like this, say almost like academic feel about them. I can't really explain it, but they all are they're a different take on your classic creatures that we know and love. I personally love this. I think I'm going to put it into so close to perfect as well, though. There were moments that I wasn't obsessed with it. I do think it's a great series. I think I gave this a 4.5 overall. I did read this a long time ago, though, so I would be interested for me to like reread it and see what it was like now. At the time that I read it, I remembered really, really appreciating that we had older protagonists as our protagonists. Oh my God, words. But our protagonists were like in their 30s. And I really appreciated that because it kind of just felt like they were more mature, which was nice, a nice change of pace, especially just because what I'd been reading. I would highly recommend that series for anyone who's like into dark academia, anything like that. Okay, next of all, you guys know how much I love this. This is Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Now, this was the first ever book, like the Dark Shade of Magic book, the first one I read by V.E. Schwab, and it took me a while to continue this series, but I am literally obsessed with it. I think about these characters all the time. Kel and Delilah are like some of my soul characters. In saying that, I actually think I'm going to put it in 5 stars, not God tier. This is my reasoning. It takes so much for series to get into a God tier series. Like, it takes so much for that to happen. It's a very difficult tier to reach. And honestly, I think I have 2 series maybe in this. Oh, I realized I forgot to add some other series. Let me quickly do that as I'm talking. Guys, we have 2 more series to go. It takes a lot for a series to get there, basically, and I don't think very many of these series will actually make it to the top. Also, you may be wondering, Frey, why didn't you include Lord of the Rings in this? Technically, there's a little bit of debate whether Lord of the Rings is considered a trilogy. I know that we're divided into 3 books, but it's actually meant to be like 6 separate works. It's a little bit confusing. Obviously, we have The Hobbit as well, so I just thought, you know what, we know how much I love that series. That will be my forever series. Nothing is going to change that. So we're just going to leave it to the side because we know how much, and it's not really a trilogy. Okay, but Darker Shade of Magic, 5 stars just because I didn't rate every book in the series a 5 stars. The series overall, like the trilogy overall, is a 5 stars, but I remember rating the first one a 4.25 or a 4.5, something like that. I rated the second one a 5 stars. I loved the second one so much, and I'm pretty sure I rated the third one a 5 stars. To be honest, really hard to get a 5-star first book. Like, that's a really hard task. It just didn't quite connect to me as, like, I'm saying this and I'm like, I am obsessed with it. It just wasn't a God tier, okay? Speaking of taking a lot, we have Jade City. This is a series that, again, in the moment, I was like, oh, I think I rated the first one like a 4.75 or something. This is a God tier series for me, I have to say. Like, since I read this series and since I finished it at the beginning of the year, I quite literally have thought about nothing else ever. I don't think characters have ever made such a big impact on me. Actually, whoa, I'm just having this realization. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I've been struggling to cry in books. I just feel like a cold-hearted monster because I really don't cry that much in books anymore, and I'm not really sure why that is. And now I'm just realizing the most I've ever cried in a book, Little Life, yes, and like Into the Dark, yeah, but Jade Legacy was the most recent one that I bawled my eyes out. Like, I was actually a mess. And since then, I haven't really properly cried in a book. I'm just realizing that that was the last one. Like, I'm on a mission to find a book that's actually gonna make me cry. Maybe I should make a video like that. I feel like The Burning Side might. I'm just rambling now. But yeah, that series has left like a mark on my soul. Like, I swear to God, that's what it takes to be a God tier series. Nothing I can fault these characters. I've never felt so conflicted towards characters, but at the end of the day, you can like kind of form a really solid opinion about them. But in the moment, you're like, do I love you? Do I hate you? I don't know. Morally conflicting things are getting brought up in my mind that I don't know how to respond to. It's just overall like one of the most insane series I've ever read, and I think it's a perfect trilogy. If you're gonna talk about series being perfectly paced, perfectly rounded, it's this. All right, Shadow and Bone. I'm gonna say this is so close to perfect. I know that lots of people don't love this series, and I will always be someone who recommends reading Shadow and Bone before you go into Six of Crows, purely because I like the series. I really like Shadow and Bone. I think it's an underrated YA series. Yeah, there are definitely annoying parts, but at the end of the day, it's a YA novel. Like, it's a YA series. It's not going to be perfect. Also, the second book's my favorite in that series, and I know that's also a very unpopular opinion. I'm also realizing that, like, if you're not new here, you've probably heard me ramble about these series a few times, and if you're still watching, even though you've heard me ramble about these series, thank you so much. I can talk about book series that I love, like, over and over and over again. All right, next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart. I do talk about this one a lot, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but obviously this is 5 stars. A perfect YA trilogy in my mind. I think Stephanie Garber is a genius. Should we do Caraval while we're here? I actually want to put it in it was fun because I definitely didn't love it nearly as much as Once Upon a Broken Heart. I'll always recommend you read it beforehand, but I do think you can gauge whether you're going to be a Caraval girly or a Once Upon a Broken Heart girly from the first two books. I personally love Once Upon a Broken Heart a little bit more. I think it's really cool to see, again, the Easter eggs, them intersecting and everything, but I wouldn't say it's like the perfect trilogy by any means. I think there are definitely lower points. I think I gave it a 4 stars overall, so I did really, really enjoy it. Maybe a 4.25. It was just on the lower side of a 4 stars, like, you know, not super high. All right, Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson, you guys know, I love it. I love it. Let's go 5 stars because honestly, I love it. I know that lots of people, you either will love it or you will just not be obsessed with the direction it goes. Guys, can we talk about the TV series for a second? Because no, movie, sorry, screen adaptation, I should say. Brandon Sanderson already finished the script, should you say, I guess, the screenplay for Mistborn. So if you didn't know, this is a trilogy getting made into a movie trilogy, and Brandon Sanderson is doing all the writing for it. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be different people who work on it with him, but he's doing the main bulk of it, which I think is really, really good because I think this is going to be quite a hard, like Brandon Sanderson's world in general, the Cosmere, how are you going to adapt that to screen? I'm so confused. I do think Mistborn will be a lot easier than Way of Kings, just because like there are so many little elements like spread in Way of Kings. How are we going to adapt that to the screen? I'm really confused. I also am so interested in who the cast is going to be for Mistborn. I think you could find a really solid cast, and I would love if we see some new actors, like some breakthrough actors, anything like that. That would be really, really great. All right, next is the David Bad trilogy, The City of Brass. You know what? This is easily a 5 stars as well. This series means the world to me, and I think it is severely underrated. This series has a whole bunch of religious and mythical influences into the magic system, into the world. I find it so interesting. We have like Middle East influences, we have Egyptian mythology, everything like that. I find it so interesting. The world is so rich. That is the only way I can describe it. I feel like I haven't talked about this one in a while. Such a highlight trilogy to me. This is again how you write a good trilogy. I would recommend this to anyone who loves fantasy. Honestly, even if you're still getting into fantasy, I would honestly say this is worth it. The second book in this blew me away. Our characters, like I feel so much for our characters. It's not even funny. But yeah, it's an interesting one for me because I feel like I don't see many people talk about it. I think it's a really underrated one, and I just think the writing was stunning, the world was stunning. The mythical creatures, so many gorgeous mythical creatures that you would never have heard of in another fantasy book. And you just don't get that in a lot of fantasy books. I feel like the problem with like in trying to find like the perfect fantasy series, it's the fact that it does feel quite oversaturated. Like you do feel like you've seen everything, and I can't even imagine being an author and trying to come up with something new. Like that's so hard. Not that this is a new series. I think this was published back in like 2014, something like that, I want to say, the 2010s. So it's an older series, but it does have that like nostalgic older series feel, which again, I personally love. So yeah, this is one that I feel like I don't talk about enough. I don't actually have the physical copies because I borrowed them from a friend, but it's one I just want to like shout from the rooftops because I think more people need to read this. I think it is like such a masterfully executed series and so incredibly underrated. Okay, next is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. Okay, this is where I struggle because to me, Cassandra Clare is like God tier. Okay, unpopular opinion, there's another series that I like more than Clockwork Angel. Maybe we should do that one. That's Chain of Gold. I don't know why, like the Last Hour series, I cannot tell you why. They're connected. Definitely read the Clockwork Angel series first. I'm going to put Clockwork Angel in 5 stars. I have a special place in my heart for this series, and I read it quite a few years ago, so I'm not sure if I'd have the same emotional reaction that I did. There's something so special to me about the whole Cassandra Clare universe, the whole Shadowhunters universe, and especially these kind of period piece ones. By the way, if you're like looking up orders, it's an incredibly confusing universe, but it doesn't really have to be because it's a YA series. So like, don't take it too seriously. Just start at a point that you would like to. I would recommend starting with Clockwork Angel if you want a more period piece, like we're set in the 1800s in London. If you want a more modern urban fantasy, go with the Mortal Instruments City of Bones series. These to me are both, they're wonderful. They're so incredibly wonderful. I love them so much. I just, for some reason, like Cordelia made me so mad, but like also I kind of loved her. And the something and like Matthew and everything. I just love those characters so much. And I think it was such a perfectly executed series. I know that some people didn't love it. Oh, now I'm like, I want to put Clockwork Angel up there as well. I don't know. Okay, we're going to leave it there for now, but it is very close to being on the God tier level as well. Both those series are so good to me. Like the epitome of a YA romantic series. And it's funny because Cassandra Clare literally writes about all the things I usually hate. I usually hate love triangles. And she writes so many love triangles. And I'm just like, how? How do I enjoy this? All right, next is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This one is going to go in close to perfect, I think. I kind of want to always put it in, it was fun, but I think, see, the thing about that one is I loved it in the moment, but as time's gone on, I've kind of just don't think about it as much as I thought I would. I still love it, don't get me wrong, like it's in an incredibly high tier. You know, when you read a book, you have a really great time, and then as time goes on, you just like slowly disconnect from it a little bit. You might forget what happens in it. That's kind of the situation for me. I think, again, it's a really great YA dystopian series. I really liked the plot progression. I think Lynette Noni is always going to catch you off guard. You're never going to really know what she's doing, what she's got up her sleeve. Kind of stopped thinking about it as much. Over The Prison Healer and The Madoran Chronicles, her other series, I prefer The Madoran Chronicles. I have a stronger connection to that. I'm not sure if that's just because that's a really long series, so I have more time with our characters, or if I just connected to them more. I'm not entirely sure, but I do love Lynette Noni. I think she's a great writer. I do need to read her newest release as well. I need to grab that one. Going for a bit of a throwback, we have Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Now, I think I'm going to put this one in, I think I'm going to go It Was Fun. I really liked it in the moment, and to be honest, I have a little soft spot for this because it got me out of a massive book slump. I was really feeling it. I think it's a really fun YA mystery series. I think it got a little bit wacky and weird towards the end of the trilogy. Like, I'm not really sure why we went in the direction that we did, but I still think it's a fun time, you know? Like, I don't take it too seriously. I don't think it was that bad by any means. It just felt a little bit like she went off the rails a little bit towards the end. And I definitely think, I don't know, the first book I really liked. I thought it was really like cozy, wholesome, but also that like had that really addictive quality about it, was a little bit thrilling, had all the elements, and then it kind of just got a little bit dark, which I wasn't expecting. All right, next we have Icebreaker. So this is like an interconnected trilogy, which is literally the only romance trilogy I could think of. Please let me know if I've forgotten any that I've read, but it was literally the only one I could think of. There's like technically an interconnected romance series that's a trilogy. All the other ones are massive. I'm going to put this in I've read better. Now, I will say I'm not a big Icebreaker hater. I think it gets way too much hate. I don't know why it gets so much hate. I think it's fine. I think it's a fun hockey romance. If you've read any other hockey romance, I feel like it doesn't feel that explicit compared to it. I think I might even go on and include the Red Rising series because like it kind of is a trilogy and I did just finish it and I kind of want to rank it. All right, but Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is going to be so close to perfect. I think this is like hated on. As a Cassandra Clare novel, I think this one doesn't get enough hype. Lots of people say it's like their least favorite Cassandra Clare series. I personally loved it. I loved our characters. It is a more modern one. We are set in the modern age. I liked it more than City of Bones, that's for sure. That one's my least favorite actually by her for obvious reasons. Okay, I added two more, so we will do Red Rising and then we have another one that I kind of just think. Sometimes I'm noting all the series down and they don't pop into my head until I'm doing it. If we're going to talk about Red Rising as the core original trilogy and then we go on to like phase 2, I would say it is a 5-star series, which you would never have like caught me saying that. When I initially read this series, I was like, when I initially read the first book, you guys know, was not going to say that. But after reading the third book, I think I have to put it there. Like, I kind of feel a duty to myself to put it there. Yeah, I feel like I don't need to say too much about that one. I just wanted to put it in so you guys can see how I'm feeling about the series as a whole. So far, we only have 2 in the God Tier series, which to me, if you're going to take any recommendations, take those for a trilogy. All right, one though that I have definitely been seeing getting more hype recently, which I'm really, really happy about because I think it is a very underrated series. And I read this again years ago, but thoroughly enjoyed it, is Scythe. Now, I believe there are spin-offs to this book as well, but I think again, it's a core trilogy. At least that's the only books that I've read. This is such an interesting premise because we are basically following 2 protagonists from memory. Again, I read this years ago, like I think about 5 years ago. Whenever the last one came out, that's when I read it. And we are following Citra and Rowan, I think their names are. And they are basically tasked to apprentice a scythe, which is kind of like a Grim Reaper type looking like role. It's very interesting. It's like a sci-fi dystopian kind of world, very dark, very gritty and atmospheric. But I think it deserves more hype, to be completely honest. And I'm glad it is getting more rep at the moment. I would say it's close to perfect. There is one scene, I think it was in the second book, that is grilled into my mind. It was probably the first time I'd read like a more gruesome scene, and it is fully like in my mind. I cannot escape that image. So I don't even know if it was that gory as I'm saying that. It probably wasn't. It was probably that one scene that was just so vivid to me. And it wasn't even that intense or anything. If you've read it, please let me know if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure that you will. I'm not sure it affected anyone else like it did me. I remember my friends reading it and being like, oh, that was fine. And I was like, oh, was it? Was it? But overall, I really, really liked it. I think it's a really close to perfect trilogy as well. I think that leaves us with all the trilogies I can think of that I've finished. Obviously, so many trilogies that I'm in the middle of that I would love to add to this list, but that'll just have to wait. We'll just have to do an updated one. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm so sorry if you have heard me talk about these series before. But yeah, I think obviously our winners for this, if we're gonna have winners, were Jade City and Chain of Gold. And two very different reasons. Like, I don't know, like probably nostalgic reasons that Chain of Gold's on there, but that's okay, right? That's totally okay. Please let me know some of your all-time favorite series. I would love to hear them, or trilogies rather, especially if they weren't in here or if you would rank some of these differently. But yeah, thank you so much for watching to the end if you have. I greatly, greatly appreciate it and I love you guys so, so much. And I will see you in my next video.